And we are live for Lowering the Barrier episode. This is 20.
Wow.
The big 2-0.
Wow.
One more episode and our podcast legally can drink
That's
in
impressive.
America. Hi, everybody. It's been a minute, and I know we said that in the last episode.
Yeah.
But, you know, we just had a baby.
We did.
So, well, I did not give birth.
No.
But a baby entered our family.
Yes.
Via your vaginal canal.
Yes.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about the birth story. And I put out a Q&A on my Instagram, and so I got some good questions. So I'm hiding them from Maddie.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them.
They're good questions. I already vetted them.
Okay.
You know, there's nothing like super weird. But yeah, they're all good questions. And so we're excited to get into that. I guess I'll do the standard intro, outro.
Might as well.
Okay, so the A-Team, my group training program that is less than $1 a day with a 7-day free trial, has started its newest cycle this week. So this will be dropping on Tuesday, August 13th. And this intro week is the best time to join. You obviously can join anytime you want, but now is a really good time to join. Forward Forever, if you need a little more help on the nutrition side of things, Forward Forever has fitness, nutrition. It's the same thing as my group training program in terms of like the same workouts. It matches every cycle. Forward Forever just gets it a week earlier. But then it also has nutrition, education, a lot of support, a really big and strong community. So if you kind of need the next upgraded version of, fitness and nutrition pursuits, Forward Forever would be a great thing to join. Our next cycle registration begins on September 8th. And then if you enjoy hearing this, if you enjoy hearing our thoughts, be sure to follow us both on Instagram at AlexTameyFitness.
And Meals with Maddie.
Yeah, that is a dead account.
It will come back.
Are you sure about that? Do you think it will?
Yeah. I actually have, Yeah, it will.
Okay, I wasn't sure where you're at with that, but I don't want to pressure you. Because again, she did just have a baby, so be chill about it, guys. If you do enjoy this podcast, this episode, the entire podcast as a whole, be sure to give it a 5-star rating, subscribe, follow, do what you got to do. And then if you really enjoyed it, screenshot and sharing it on your Instagram story and tagging us really means a lot. Mm-hmm. Okay, what are we watching right now?
Taskmasters. Yeah.
If you haven't seen Taskmaster, that is a phenomenal show. Basically, there are 5 comedians. There's a host, a co-host, and then there are 5 comedians, and the comedians are different every season. It's like 10 or 12 episodes, something like that?
I think 10.
Yeah. I think 10. There's like a British version, like a UK version, an Australia version, a New Zealand version. Maybe there are others, but we've watched at least the British and the New Zealand. And they are phenomenal. Basically, they're just given like random tasks. And so each episode, they have to do like 3 or 4, maybe 5 different tasks.
Something like that. Yeah.
And then the host like judges them for how creative they are. And like, can you think of a task that would be a good...
Off the top of my head, which is embarrassing.
Right. But
we've watched so many seasons.
If you're curious, if you want like a good comedy and you're not like fully committed to like checking it out, they do have the full seasons on YouTube. So you can just watch it for free, which is really nice. And if you're curious, just look up like Taskmaster, best of Taskmaster on YouTube, and you'll get like a few clips and you'll kind of get a vibe of like, oh, this is for me or this is not for me. I think it's really funny though. We both do. Other than that, we just finished House of the Dragon. That was phenomenal. Some people said the last episode was a little too slow for them, but they're taking this long approach of 4 seasons, and so you kind of have to you build up, it's the suspense. And so I loved the cinematography. You and I talked about the way they had lined up and shot different scenes of just phenomenal
I loved
season,
that one.
phenomenal episode.
We just finished the Olympics.
Yeah, the Olympics.
As everyone in the world did.
Yep. Yeah. CrossFit Games. We kind of watched that.
Yeah.
But somebody died on the first event out of negligence, in my opinion, from the organizers. And so that was kind of like, I didn't really want to watch it that much anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts about that. But yeah, man died. Not just from like a heart attack. A heart attack is like something that's like freak accident. Like it could happen to anybody in any situation, for the most part. Mm-hmm. No, he drowned on their watch in the first event. So that was messed up. Yeah, I would be surprised if there's not some kind of legal action taken. But
I don't know anything.
I don't know anything about law or anything like that. But yeah.
It was very, very sad. Very
Sad.
unfortunate.
Yeah, that sucked. Okay, we're going to hit a quick vibe switch. So let's just shake that off. Let's get into it. Okay. So today we are going to be talking obviously about the birth story. And we're going to start with how were the last few weeks of pregnancy? Because last time we recorded an episode and posted it.
Yeah, it's probably
We posted that on July 9th, and it was either that day or the next day that we went in.
Yeah. Okay, so y'all are relatively caught
They're
up.
pretty caught up.
Pregnancy honestly was really easy for me. I was very lucky, mild nausea during the first trimester, but really not anything debilitating. So I really thought that like everything was going to be really smooth sailings. I went to my 39-week appointment. Everything looked good. I had no signs of labor. So, yeah, really we thought we were going to be the typical first-time parents where we were in it for the long haul, and I'd probably hit like 41 weeks and then kind of talk about induction or next steps. But yeah, 39-week appointment went swimmingly. And then a couple days later, like 2 or 3 days past that appointment, I started just feeling like off, I guess. Like I had a little bit of a headache and my feet were insanely swollen. And I had been dealing with swelling pretty consistently throughout the like later half of the second trimester and third trimester. And obviously, well, not obviously, a lot of people wouldn't know this, but swelling is a common sign of preeclampsia. So it's something that I had been somewhat keeping an eye on. However, my blood pressure was always solid, like pretty low even. I think the highest it was during pregnancy was like 118 over, I don't know the bottom number.
Maybe.
Yeah. But
super normal.
Super normal. So we had always, me and my midwives had always kind of chalked up the swelling to just typical pregnancy, hot summers, being on your feet, that sort of thing. Well, one night I noticed it was pretty bad swelling. And I was like, oh, long day. It'll probably be better in the morning. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it. Well, I woke up the next morning and it had not gone down at all. It was maybe even a little worse. So I took my blood pressure because we have a cuff at home. And it was, I want to say like 140s.
Yep.
So not great, but not the
like,
danger zone. Yeah. With preeclampsia, the danger zone is what I've been referring to it as. But like you're really at heightened risk over 160s. So at 140s, I was like, well, I might as well just call my midwives. I call them all the time for random things. So might as well call them and see.
Okay. So let me just like say you were not as she is not somebody who like so I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to bother
I really
them.
Didn't.
And so I was the one who was like, hey, you should check your blood pressure. Let's just like, we have the wrist cuff. Let's just do this. I don't think I don't know if you would have done that. Next, I don't know if you would have. You definitely were not going to call them.
No, I didn't. I did not want to call them because I really thought that like 140s was like, oh, it's probably fine. Because you Google it, right? You get on Google like one does when something weird happens. And they're like, oh, 140, it's a little high, but you're probably okay. And that was like the approach that I was wanting to take. I really didn't want to.
And I was like, you just call them. That's what they are there for. They want you to be calling them. If you ever have any questions or concerns, just call them.
And I think when I called them, I was maybe too lackadaisical about it because I was like, oh, I feel okay. I'm a little swollen, but I've been swollen. And this is what the blood pressure said. And, yada, yada. And I was like, it's an arm or a wrist cuff. So maybe it's not as accurate and all of this. And my midwife was like, well, if you have time, maybe stop by labor and delivery, stop in the triage, just get it checked. We'll do an NST. She was like, if you want to do that, I will call over there. It was very much like my decision. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything today. So might as well get checked out. Better safe than sorry, ultimately. But I really went over there. Like we didn't, I brought my go bag. I brought my hospital bag.
Yeah, we had that in the car for the last like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. But that was it.
That was it.
I really thought this was going to be a very standard.
I thought it was a checkup. They
were like, we'll take your blood pressure. We'll do an NST. Should be in and out. It was not an in and out. It was 2 hours of testing. My blood pressure continued to
first
rocket.
We went to the OB office, and that's when they were like, hey, come to the OB office, and we checked it there.
That was after.
I think Milo's crying.
I think so.
Okay, we'll pause this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, are you going to hear him though?
Yeah, I think we're going to hear him. Should we put this on pause?
Should we resume during his next nap?
Yeah, we could. Okay, and we are back.
Brief hiatus. Not hiatus. Intermission.
Yeah, just a hiatus. Sure, I think that would have worked. Intermission. Yep. We had to take about a 48-hour break there. Where we left off, or where I will cut it off, is where I said, is that Milo? Or I think Milo's crying, something to that effect.
Yeah.
But before that, we were talking about, we left off, what part of the story did we leave off at? We were talking about you calling the OB, your blood pressure being a little high,
Yep.
and then heading, and then you and I had not you, I had a confusion about the process or the timeline of things.
Yes. Yep.
So, okay,
Yeah.
you feel like you got a good handle on where we're at?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So after calling the midwife, and she was like, if you feel up for it, go ahead, stop in. We'll do an NST test, take your blood pressure, make sure everything, looks good. At this time, no one really thought that there was any reason for concern because, again, my pregnancy had been really easy. All of my tests had come back totally fine throughout those 39 weeks, and my blood pressure had looked really stable the entire time. But that is not what happened when I got to the hospital. So, they check you in, you lay in your bed, and they start running tests. And at first, they were like, we're just going to take your blood pressure. We'll do a urine sample, that sort of thing.
Be in and out.
Yeah.
That's really what we thought.
Yeah.
We thought it in and out.
Yeah. So we were really anticipating maybe like a 30-minute trip, whatever. Luckily, we live close to the hospital. But unfortunately, my blood pressure just continued to creep up. And at first they were like, okay, well, let's just, wait it out. Let's see if it's just like white coat syndrome, like if you're just nervous in the hospital and all of that. I don't typically get that. So I kind of didn't think that was what was going to happen. But I also normally have very stable, like borderline low blood pressure, lower end of normal, I should say. So they start doing blood pressure checks every 15 minutes. And I mean, we're there for 2 hours and they are still coming back pretty elevated. So they come back and they say, okay, well, let's run your urine sample and just check all of these signs of preeclampsia, because I also did have some pretty intense swelling, especially my feet. And then it came back that yes, there was protein in my urine sample, and that is
elevated.
Yeah, elevated protein in my urine sample, and that is a pretty clear sign of preeclampsia.
Yeah, the 3 signs that they said were high blood pressure, protein in urine, and swollen feet.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yep.
Checked all of those boxes.
Yeah. And there are some other things that people, that are even bigger warning flags of really intense headaches and things like that. Blurry vision, dizziness can be signs as well. I didn't have those at the time, thankfully. But because of all of those signs and because I was so close to my due date, they were like, we're just going to induce you. We're going to check you in and you're going to have your baby pretty soon. Typically, I shouldn't say typically, but a lot of times preeclampsia will pop up much earlier in pregnancy than, the very tail end. So sometimes they'll try to delay labor. In my case, that is not what happened. So we were admitted and we started going through all of the options for induction. We did the cervical check and all of that to see if we were even dilated, and we were not. There were no signs of labor starting naturally. Like I said earlier, we really thought that we'd be going to the 41-week mark because of how slow everything was moving. There truly were no signs that I was going to be having a baby anytime soon. Induction is crazy. I really just left it up to the midwives of what do you think is best? The only thing I really wanted to avoid was Pitocin and the Foley balloon if I was able to. So we did one method of induction.
Any reason for that?
Pitocin contractions are
more
tough.
Intense. Yeah.
They're just really, really intense. And the Foley balloon is typically pretty painful. My midwife talked me through it. She was like, it won't be that bad. Sometimes it's really bad because they're poorly placed, but I promise we're really good at it. I had a great team of midwives who were really great about walking me through every step. They answered every single question. And I'm sure those questions were kind of stupid, to be honest. But I was pretty scared and very nervous. But so we were able to dodge both of those. We started with a 24-hour medication that came in every 4 hours or 8 hours. I don't remember exactly. I think every 4 hours. And I was able to take 8 pills.
Yeah. And during this time, so once we found out hey, no, we're going to put you up in a suite there, room, a suite, same, whatever. It makes it sound like we're at a 5-star hotel. If I say suite, which is not necessarily, it's a hospital. It was nice. It was a nice room. It was a nice big room. But it's not like we got 5-star treatment. They're like, oh, you're Alex Timmy Fitness. Oh my God, I follow you on Instagram. Your Meals with Maddie. Oh my God.
It was not like that.
But yeah, so then I went home and just scrambled to pack because I didn't know how long we would be here.
Right. They couldn't give us a timeline because Induction can take a couple hours and it can take days. So they were like, it could be up to 5 days just of induction.
Yeah, so I run home and like we had some stuff.
We
We
had go
had go
bags
bags
packed.
packed. We didn't have like blankets, pillows,
Right. We did not have long
like
term go bags.
food, and like with me with food allergies, like I do need to bring a lot of food rather than
Mhm.
just like eating. I mean, we did still eat out a lot, or like I got takeout and then
Sure.
would bring it back. But yeah, so I scrambled home. Maddie's mom stayed over at the house and took care of the dogs for us. But like I brought the Nintendo Switch. We had a TV in the
Yes.
room. I brought the Nintendo Switch to that. Just like anything, iPads, laptops, like anything that I thought might make her more comfortable. Got all that stuff. And like the first night we were there, I mean, it was so chill. It was
Right.
like we
Right.
were playing Pokemon Snap.
It
We
was a very
were
lax, like I wasn't even feeling
Yeah,
contractions
you weren't
at
feeling
that point.
contractions at that point. They did like at some point they like hooked you up to and then they could
Yes.
see like here's a contraction. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what that is. Oh, I didn't.
Right. They were very, very mild. I had continuous monitoring because of the preeclampsia. So they were continuously monitoring baby's heartbeat and then my contractions that I was not feeling at all. I was very surprised to hear that I was even having them.
And for those who don't know or don't, maybe weren't in the loop, we didn't find out the gender. We didn't know if it
Yes.
was a girl or a boy.
Yeah. So you'll
So
hear us call it baby
baby,
throughout.
it. Yeah. Anyway, so
So
okay, so that
yeah,
was like day one, night
night
one,
one was cool. I
chill.
mean,
Yeah,
I by the end of night one, I had taken most of the doses of the 24-hour first induction medication. I don't remember the name of it. Cytotec or Cervidil. Those were the two that we tried.
Cervidil, I
I think it
believe.
was Cytotec was the pill.
Yep, you're right. I think you're right actually.
Yeah. So I had taken like 4 of those doses or something like that. And by the end of the night, I was still not dilated at all. So we were just kind of plucking away, continuing on with the plan. We were able to hang out and we had a really relaxing evening. Blood pressure was still continuing to stay pretty elevated. By pretty elevated, while we were in the hospital pre-baby, it was pretty much around like the 140s and 150s.
And prior to all of this, like even during pregnancy and pre-pregnancy, she's like a 110 over 70 kind of person. So like,
Yes.
120 over 80 is usually the mark that like people reference as like this would be
Right.
a good blood pressure.
Yeah.
And lower than that within reason is totally fine too.
Yeah.
So she's usually lower than that. So to see it
Definitely.
like kind of swing on the other side.
Was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not something that I typically deal with. Despite all of that, I was feeling pretty good. Like symptom wise, I felt pretty fine. So that was cool. Day 2. So still morning, still feeling pretty good. I think that was the day your parents came and visited us for
Later in the
dinner.
day. Yeah. For dinner. Yeah.
So it wasn't until about 10 o'clock.
They brought us Chipotle at like
Yeah.
7, which was
Yeah.
awesome. And then
Like while they were there, I had a very high blood pressure
and
reading.
I was like, hey, you guys should probably head out. And they were like, okay, cool. And
Yeah.
then around like what was it, like 8 or something or 9, that contraction started getting really intense.
So yeah. By the end of the evening, I started feeling the contractions. I still was not dilated very far. I think I had gotten up to like 1 centimeter, and that was at the end of the 24-hour medication that I was on. So it was kind of time to come up with the next game plan. And my midwives, God bless them, gave me 2 options. They were like, we can try and do the Foley balloon. You're 1 centimeter dilated. We can try and do that to like manually dilate you a little bit more. You'll probably end up with Pitocin afterwards if we're not, progressing fast enough. Or we can try another method which is something that they basically insert inside, like next to your cervix. And again, I really did not want to do this Foley balloon. So I was like, we'll do the 24-hour other method of induction. Like, that's totally fine. So at 10 o'clock, they come in to place that. And I'm not kidding. As soon as they walk out of the room, they weren't even fully out of the door.
Out of the room. They were one person was out of the door and the other person was right behind her.
Yes.
And the door was starting to close.
Yes. And my water broke. And I didn't know it was my water breaking because at this time I'm kind of like, I don't want to say delirious, but I'm just
definitely not in the same headspace as normal.
No, I'm in a little bit of pain. I'm a little anxious, there's just a lot going on. So I was like, Alex, did I pee myself? I don't know what happened. Everything's wet.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, I like stopped him. I was like, I think our water just broke. Hey, and they turned around and they're like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. So they immediately, they checked to make sure that it was, actually my water breaking. And then after that, we had to take out the previous induction medicine. And they were like, yeah, that definitely wasn't from this medication. Like it didn't even have time to kick in yet. So it was seconds.
6 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess on one hand, lucky my water broke naturally because that really amplified things. Things got crazy pretty fast after that.
Things got wicked after that.
Again, a lot of times, first-time moms, they labor for a pretty long time. And depending on who you are, in my hospital, they considered like active labor or like being in labor once you're like 6-ish centimeters dilated. So basically, we just kind of came up with our next game plan, which was try to fight through these contractions, figure out pain management methods, and then just kind of like make it to the morning, check, if I'm dilated more and just kind of ride it out. By 10 o'clock, I'm in a lot of pain.
It got so brutal so fast. We
Yeah.
were trying, we tried a bath. We tried.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just fully sobbing in the bathtub.
Pivotal.
Induction contractions overall tend to be a little worse than normal contractions from my understanding. Obviously, I have no frame of reference on that. And I was even Googling, like, are all induction medications known to amplify contractions? And like, from what I've seen, kind of yes. So previously, I had really wanted to go unmedicated solely because I wanted to be able to move around and I wanted to be able to eat if I like wanted to. And at my hospital, as soon as you get an epidural, you cannot eat and you can't really move around so much. I also wanted to be able to labor or push in any position. However, as soon as induction was brought up, that pretty much flew out the window. So
you fought through those contractions for a while.
I did. I really did my best. Yeah. I was really, there's nothing wrong with getting an epidural. I did end up getting one, but I was a little devastated to actually make that call, especially because one of the, warning signs or warnings that they give you when you get your epidural is, hey, there's a small chance that this could stall labor. And at this point, I'm 2 days into my induction. The last thing I want is to stall the little bit of progress that I had made. So it was really like a very mentally tough decision for me to make. But before I even opted for the epidural, I said, can we try the laughing gas?
Nitrous oxide, I think.
Yeah. And that helped get through the worst moments of the contractions.
That was psychotic for me. I mean, not for you, but
yeah.
for me.
So again, by this point, I really am like delirious in pain. Like I'm not really fully with it, I think.
You were like, they're like, yeah, just go ahead and put this mask up to you. They said the only thing is like you have to be the one who's holding the mask. Your husband can't hold the mask in place. So I'm seeing you and the contractions, I see it on the chart over there. It's like printing off and it's like, oh, I see this, the number rising and it's high and and it keeps getting higher and it's like I can see you're in discomfort and then you take a puff of this and it's like you're breathing it in and your eyes just start going back to your head and then your head starts drooping and the contraction ends, your hand drops, you're passed out and you wake up and you don't even realize you were asleep. And that happened over and over and over and over and over again. It's like my wife is just going unconscious for a few seconds. I was like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, is this normal?
Yeah, no, I really was. I was sucking that thing. I was inhaling that thing so deeply. I was like, any pain management I can get from this thing. And I had gone in not really thinking much of the laughing gas because I had heard a lot of people say that like, it's like you're contracting in outer space, like it kind of takes a little bit of the edge off, but really more than anything, it just kind of makes you a little loopy. But for me, so the only birth prep that I really did was I took a hypnobirthing class and I'll be completely 100% transparent. It was on the computer and I probably paid attention to 6 minutes of the 1 hour hypnobirthing class because that's just who I am. But the only thing that I really took away from it was box breathing. So on our ceiling, we had those little like popcorn ceiling tiles and I'm like using that to do box breathing. And for me, the laughing gas allowed me to pay attention to my breathing just a little bit more than when I didn't have it. So it made my contractions slightly more manageable, and I was able to recover quicker because they came so fast. By that time, my contractions, I felt like they were coming like constant. They weren't actually coming constantly, but it
But
felt
you
like
were
that way.
unconscious. So.
How would I know?
Yeah, you were unconscious during the downtime.
Yeah. So I probably had that for, I don't know. I don't even think quite an hour.
Yeah, maybe it was an hour. I don't
It
know.
wasn't very long though. And eventually the nurse came back in and she's like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I think I need," or I think I called them. I called them and I was like, "I need an epidural."
Yeah, I mean, you're chill about it now in the moment because we're 4 weeks removed,
Yeah.
but it was not so chill.
Yeah, you probably have a way better recollection of what kind of went down that night.
Yeah, and like we're using my phone to record. Otherwise, I'd pull up the photos because I took a lot of photos just to like,
Right.
and with like timestamps of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, I don't remember if we had a conversation about it, but I definitely was like, hey, you were just in excruciating pain. Like, obviously, the
Yeah.
most pain I've ever seen you in, like, that goes without saying, but it was very difficult to watch you like that, knowing, hey, there's this thing that would make this a whole lot easier. And yeah, so
Yeah.
at a certain point,
I think it was around 11 p.m.
yeah, maybe midnight.
Around
I think you
11
went through
p.m.
like a good 4 hours of like really intense contractions,
Yeah. And
starting around like 7 or 8.
I remember telling you, I'm going to get an epidural before midnight. I'm holding out as long as I can, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure before midnight I'll have an epidural.
Yep.
And again, it was this horrible fear of stalling labor and like not dilating, because at this time I didn't even know how dilated I was. The last I had heard was 10 p.m. I was 1 centimeter dilated. So that was all I had to go off for, maybe 9 p.m. I don't know, something like that. So that was all my only frame of reference, is that I just really was not progressing very quickly, but the contractions were getting horrid. So then the epidural happened. I'm like dialing or calling on the little call button, like, I need an epidural. And my nurse came in and she walked me through it. And she was like, "Okay, you have to be off the laughing gas for 15 minutes, which worked out really nicely because the anesthesiologist needed to come into the room and
like
all
15
of
minutes
that.
to get there.
Yeah.
Set
So
everything up.
it was 15 minutes of pain because you just have to fight through the contractions at that point. I'm really not selling people on giving birth right now, I don't think.
Well, we'll get to the life with Milo section, and that'll be a little bit more pleasant.
Once the epidural came in, first of all, if people tell you that they don't feel the epidural going in, or that that's a painless
some people
thing,
might feel it more or less.
I have never
feel
heard
things more.
I have never heard of someone feeling it.
Yeah.
I definitely felt it.
Yeah, you feel things more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once that was in, I mean, I was in awe of our anesthesiologist.
Instant relief. Yeah, you were in love with her.
Yeah, I was singing her
you are
praises.
my hero.
I told her, "There's like,
She was
you
so
must
nice,
be
too.
the
She
hospital's
was-
favorite person."
Yeah, she was so sweet. She was so caring, and
Yes, everyone was so wonderful. I have nothing but good things to say about our experience with the staff.
All right, so you get the epidural, and they're like, "Okay, now the best thing to do is like
sleep. Just try to sleep.
Just relax and sleep." And obviously, this was all very high tension adrenaline, so it was a little bit hard for us just to like make that switch into like, okay, close your eyes and fall asleep now. But we did.
Yes, we ended up falling asleep, and with the epidural, so they're based on like they're impacted by gravity. So if you're on your side for too long or on your back, it'll shift where you're numb. So my nurse came in and was like, every hour or so, every 40-ish minutes, I'm going to come in and reposition you because you're not going to be able to move on your own, but we really want to make sure that you feel numb all over. We want this epidural to work as well as it possibly can. So she was coming in and she was like, she kept telling me, if you feel pressure, call me immediately. If you feel pressure, because that's kind of a sign that you'll, be going into labor or, pushing soon. Well, I didn't feel anything. And at a certain point, she comes in and she goes, "Okay, it's been 2 hours. I need to place a catheter if you're going to be, numb for so long." I don't remember the exact timing on all of this, but she was like, "Before I do that, I'm going to check how dilated you are and see where we're at. Because if you're ready to push, I'm not going to place the catheter. We'll just do, it'll be like an in and out. Like you won't have a permanent catheter because the baby will be coming. I don't know all the like technical parts of it, whatever. So this is maybe 1 a.m., maybe
Yeah, so we
2.
slept for like 30 minutes.
It was not long. She
No.
came in and repositioned me 3 times. And each one I think was 30, 40 minutes in between each other. So I think it was by like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
She came in and checked. And she was like, "You're going to have a baby this morning."
That's when you woke me up because you were kind of nervous about the catheter being placed. And so you're
Yeah.
like, I was sleeping on the couch there. And you're like, hey, babe, it's time. And I was like, yeah, I was already kind of on alert, you know?
Yeah.
So I was immediately like, wide eye, like stand
Yeah.
up. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. And so I started drinking an energy drink because, yeah, she checked and she's like, you're going to be having a baby this morning. And we were like, both like looking at each other like deer in headlights, like, wait, hold on. Okay, this whole time it's just been slow, slow, slow. We've been hanging out. We've been getting Taco Bell, McDonald's, B-dubs. We've been getting, we've been playing Pokemon
Pokemon Snap.
Snap and like Team Fight Tactics, which is this little mobile
Yeah.
game we play. And it's like, it's all been really slow. And all of a sudden it's like, it's happening now. It's
Yeah.
now is time.
Yeah. After my water broke, everything happened very quickly. So, it took a little bit of time before I was actually like starting to push and everything. And at first, I did not know this, but like when you first start pushing, it's just you and a nurse. Like
Yeah,
your
there's
midwife
no
doesn't come
doctor
in
there.
until much later, or your doctor,
Yeah.
depending on your care team. But anyway, we start pushing, and luckily at this point, she's able to reposition me. So I'm able to push in different positions, which was very nice. That way I didn't just have to labor on my back the whole time. So there were definitely times that was just a little bit more comfortable. And I mean, I won't get into like too much of this, but pushing took forever.
Yeah, it was like 4 hours.
I was pushing for 3.5-ish hours, and it was brutal. It was very brutal. There were multiple times that the midwives and the nurses, they were like, "You're so close. It's any minute now. It's gonna be so fast." It was not.
Yeah, well, they just kept saying that like the baby's in this canal where it's like moving forward, and then when you stop pushing, it moves back. And so we were just kind of sliding back and forth in this kind of canal area.
Yeah.
And I mean, I asked one of them, I was like, would a stronger core help with this? Like, would a stronger like abs and transverse abdominis and maybe even obliques, like would that help with this? And they were like, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so I think if we do have another baby, that is something that like we'll probably train for. Not
Yeah.
literally her laying there pushing, but just like the strength of like
Yeah.
doing more. Because how often do you train your abs?
No, never.
Like once or twice a year?
Yeah.
Maybe.
If we go to Planet Fitness, I do it because they have like the machine, but I'm not at home doing crunches.
Right. And I do crunch. I mean,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't matter because I'm not the one pushing a baby
Yeah.
out. But if I could have given you some of my ab strength, I would have donated that to you.
Yeah. That it was really brutal. And they're like, first time moms, they push longer. You don't know how to push. And the other thing that made it so horrible is your epidural. So it numbs you from your contractions. It doesn't numb you from crowning, or what is lovingly referred to as like the ring of fire. It doesn't numb that part. So like the actual pushing part is pretty painful. But because my contractions and like my abdomen and my legs were so numb, I couldn't feel my contractions, and I couldn't feel how to actually push other than just like what I thought, like I didn't have that like mind muscle connection, I guess is the best way to put it, because I can't feel them.
Right.
And I remember just like asking I was like, this can't be right. I can't be doing this right.
Yeah, you kept saying, am I doing this right? Is there something I should be doing differently?
And they were like, no, this
is it. You're doing great. And I mean, they're just
they're
the
so
sweetest
supportive.
people. Yeah.
And I mean, I know I was out of my mind with the things I was saying and asking, but I was like, there's no way that this is how this is supposed to go. And they were like, yeah, no, this is. It just, yours is taking longer than, I don't want to say most. I don't know what the average labor time is, but I'm pretty sure I was on the higher end. But there was a point towards the very end where they were like, you're close. Like you're close. And you were so supportive, and you were like shaking my shoulder, and yeah,
The whole time I thought,
you were very
I'm not gonna
supportive.
lie, I thought it. So something that I haven't been really public with is that I've been dealing with some like lightheadedness and dizziness for like 4 years straight.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna get into that, but oh my god, I thought I was for sure gonna pass out. So I'm like just kind of bouncing between both legs, like trying to shake my legs out. You know, when you like you see those videos of people in like weddings and stuff when they brace their knees and then they pass out. So I'm like trying to do that, and like yeah, I'm like massaging her shoulder and just like kind of cheering her on for 3.5, 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't have the hard job here. I did not have the hard job here. But yeah, as we were getting really close, like, I mean, I could see the baby's head again, didn't know if it was girl or boy yet. And they were like, you know, Dad, you can see their head. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And that happened earlier kind of because like you can see its head and then, but it takes a while for that to actually keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was like, I knew this next one was probably going to be the push if you could push harder than you had pushed so far. And
Yeah.
you were pushing for like, let's say you were, I mean, I don't know seconds or like strength, but like, let's say you were pushing for 80%, we needed you to go 110.
Yeah.
And you kept hitting this like 80%, 90%, but we needed you to go 110, like beyond what I think you thought you were capable of. You know, you looked at me and said like, I don't know if I can do this. And you were crying while you said that. And I was like, absolutely, you can do this. Absolutely, you can. Because in my head, I'm like, dude, we have no other choice. There are no other fucking options other than getting through this, right? And so
Right.
it's just one of those options. It's just one of those times when it's like the only way forward is through. And
Yes.
that is a really shitty situation to be in, unfortunately, when like you have no other choice but to be strong, you know, whether it's
Yeah.
pregnancy and labor or, you know, a death of a family member or something like that, or some other shitty situation. It's like, okay, this is our reality. This is what we have to do. We have to be stronger than we've ever been in our entire lives. So I looked at you, I held your face, and I just said, like, you can do this. I know you can do this. Say it right now. And you're like, I can do this. And I was like, say it again. And you said, I can do this. And it's like switch flipped. And then this, you know, next few pushes came and you were pushing really hard. And this last one came. And I was just like shaking your shoulder because I could see more progress than ever. And it's like, the baby's head was more and more and more and more. And I was like, come on, shake, you know, shaking you and like, keep pushing, just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And I could tell like it was the worst that you were going through. And I was just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And then, you know, bam, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So through all this time, it's all just to get the head, right?
Yeah.
That's to get the head out, to stop crowning. I did not realize, and maybe this isn't for everyone, I did not realize that once the head's out, the whole thing
The
just
whole thing
shoots out.
shoots out. I mean, sorry to be graphic, but like everything just, oh,
And
I,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if it's partly our baby's size. Our baby had a 91st percentile head.
Danielle's husband said I should have watched Band of Brothers, which is a war show, like docuseries kind of thing, to prepare for this. And like I was like laughing, like ha ha ha. Oh Matt, you're being funny. No, he was being dead serious, and I definitely owe him like a my bad. You were right. I definitely should have. It's not like I like threw up or passed out or anything. It's a lot, you know. It's a lot. It's intense.
I mean, I didn't have to see it. They asked if I wanted to like touch the head as I was crowning, and I was like,
Yeah, you're like,
no.
But yeah, so he comes out. I don't know if I'm like missing anything, but you know, the baby comes out and they said, Dad, do you want to announce him? And so many people told me like, don't mess up the gender. Don't mess up the gender. You're going to see the umbilical cord and you might think that's a penis. Well, and so I'm like just taking an extra second, just one extra second to make sure that I am seeing a little penis. I am seeing little balls, you know, and I am seeing the umbilical cord, but they are separate things. This whole time we're thinking it was a girl. So it was like shock. There was like probably about like a second and a half really, that I was just like staring. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get emotional. I brought the tissues for you. I have tissues over here and they were supposed to be for you. But yeah, I announced it's a boy, and I was so excited. I mean, I would be excited because we have nieces, and I love them so much. But yeah, I would have been excited either way. But
Yeah. I think there's something really fun of like we really thought it was a girl. People like strangers would come up to us and say that
At
they
the
thought
gas
it was a
station,
girl.
and when I bought golf clubs at Dunham's, like they were
Yeah,
like,
I
"Oh,
got
you're having a
my
girl."
yes, I got my nails done and my nail tech was like, "You have a really feminine aura right now. I bet you're having a girl." And just like things like that. And then I had a couple dreams, like pregnancy dreams where it's a girl. So like it wasn't anything insanely strong like, "Oh, I know," but I definitely thought it was a girl. So for it to be a boy was such a fun surprise. And we didn't obviously care one way or
No,
another. Like we
we
were
would
going
have
to
been
be
happy
so
either way.
excited.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah.
announced it's a boy, and then you said, "Is it our Milo?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they passed the baby up to you, and you were just like, "Oh my gosh!" The amount of, I mean, everybody who's a parent I know has gone through this, where it's just like you went through so much hell to have this little fucking spawn baby, and all of a sudden it's just this overwhelming amount of relief. You're
Mhm.
done with the pain. Like obviously there's pain in the
Right.
subsequent
Yeah.
recovery and all that, but you went through all this pain, you went through all this time of waiting and not knowing, and then you finally get to meet your baby. It's just like the flood of emotions. It's not comparable to anything that this mixture of both happiness and relief. One thing that I think I could, it's going to sound so stupid, but we watch the sport MMA, and when
Mhm.
somebody, really any sport, when they reach the pinnacle,
Yeah.
they've won the Super Bowl, they've won a UFC championship, they've won the World Series, whatever it is, NBA championship, Olympic gold. It's like you have worked so hard for this thing to happen, and it's finally just this relief. But I do want to compare it specifically to MMA, because like they go through pain. And
Mhm.
football players, obviously they go through pain too. They're
Yeah.
running into each other and stuff like that. But like UFC fighters, like they're hurting each other, and there
Right.
and there's so much fear, because you could get knocked out, you could get
Yeah.
seriously injured, you could lose your life potentially. It's obviously an extreme that doesn't really happen
Sure.
very often, but that is potentially on the table. Your life could be changed forever. And that fear that I think a lot of UFC fighters have talked about or have felt is like kind of akin to what both of us were feeling in different ways, like the pain of seeing the person you love in so much pain, and then that relief is just like, oh. And then you obviously, for yours is more like one to one of just like, you're in pain, now you're not in so much pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really intense.
Yeah.
So he was born at
6:38.
6:38 a.m. He was 8 pounds 1 ounce. He was 21 inches. We named him Milo Allen Teamy. Allen is after my dad, and then his initials MAT are both after Maddie, and then Maddie's dad Matthew. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very special day. Intense, insane. Overall, it was fine. Like I don't know. I This is the first time I've really been able to talk about labor without crying, to be honest. Oh,
You got to
I'm
change.
leaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time I've been able to really talk about labor without crying and having a really tough time. I've kind of thought, like, if we decide to have another baby or when we have another baby, it might be something where I talk to a therapist prior to labor and just kind of like work through some of that, because it really was, I transparently, there are way worse labors.
I hate that. I hate that comparison, not just from you, but from like anybody, of like, oh, you could have it worse. It's like, if somebody's best friend, mom and dad all died in a fiery car crash, and somebody comes along, it's like, actually it could be worse, because I had the same thing happen, but also my sister was in the fiery car crash, or whatever it was.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
there will always be people who have it worse. There will always
yeah,
be worse situations, but that doesn't mean that what happened to you wasn't this bad thing. And so like, don't diminish or
yeah.
delegitimize what
That's
you went through or what anybody went through, just because it wasn't, because it could have been harder. But things could always be harder, and things could always be better. And so if we're always trying to move those goalposts, it's like we're never really allowing ourselves to feel correctly.
Yeah, that's very well said, and definitely something that I need to be better about, especially when it comes to the labor and delivery. But overall, and I tell Milo this when I'm like talking to him in the middle of the night, because I do like our night feedings and everything, is I tell him like it was so worth it. I would do it a million times over. I would do it a million times worse.
He's just our guy.
He's just our guy.
Yeah. During labor, during the worst of it, you said, I can't do this again. We won't have another child. And like, I know in the moment, like I wasn't like, all right, I wasn't going to argue with you, obviously. And I
Yeah.
was just like, let's just get through this. Let's just
Yeah.
focus on the right here, right now. We don't need to make any future decisions. We just need to focus on being present right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. 45 seconds after, she was like, I could do this again.
It's crazy.
And that's what
It's
every
yeah.
mom, specifically moms,
Yeah.
because they have to go through the pain, have said to
Yes.
us is like, you forget it. And the further away you
Yes.
get, the more you forget it.
Yeah. It's like I can't tell you about the pain, the way that I could when I was going through it. Like I
Right.
can't, And yeah, it was, I don't know, there's something kind of magical about being able to do that, about being able to like bring life into the world. Yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. All things considered, despite how long the induction took, our labor was very quick. By the time my water broke until the time the baby was here is about 7-ish hours. But the actual pushing itself took a very long time. My midwife told me, next time around you have another baby, if your water breaks, get to the hospital immediately, because
Yeah.
after your second and however many after typically go a little faster than your first. So our labor was pretty quick despite it taking forever.
So then postpartum, so we stayed an extra day because everybody told us like, hey, if they offer it, stay an extra day. And we wouldn't have done that. My oldest sister, Jen, was really pushing for that. She was, she has 4 kids, and she was like,
Yeah.
if they offer you an extra day, absolutely take the help.
Yeah.
It'll be so helpful just to get extra sleep. You'll
Yes.
go home more rested. So we were like, okay, well, yeah, kind of leaning toward, we were pretty sure we were going to do that. And then a nurse was like, dude, do it. 100% do it. I've had kids like, you definitely stay the extra night. We'll be able to take the kid, we'll be able to take the
so you
baby
can sleep.
so you can sleep. Like, just do it. You won't have this kind of help at home.
Yeah.
And so we did stay an extra day.
Yeah. So we were there 2 nights after giving birth.
Yep. And then after that, we went home and introduced the baby to Milo, to the dogs, and that went really, really well.
Yeah, the dogs are in love with him.
We did it one at a time because Rosie's a little bit higher energy, and so Leo was first, and he was just like tail was whipping and like so happy. He's very gentle and calm around him, and Rosie now is too. She's very, very chill because she's rambunctious, very high energy, jumps all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he's out, like in his bouncer or we're holding him, she's walks up. Usually she licks everything in sight. She doesn't lick him. She just like sniffs his head or his fingers or his toes or whatever.
And then kind of curls up next to us while we're holding him. It's very sweet.
Very sweet that she has that just kind of like innate nature.
Yeah.
And how many days was it after that? So we were checking blood pressure. They were like, hey, just be continuously chechecking blood pressure because you're not necessarily out of the woods yet.
No. For the most part, if you have preeclampsia, delivering the placenta is what they say is like 95% of the time, or 99, that's a made up number. Don't quote me on that. But most of the time, delivering the placenta, giving birth, kind of takes care of it. You're kind of in the clear. And after giving birth, my blood pressure was in like the 120s. So pretty good. We were very happy. We didn't have any of those, high spikes. That was another reason I kind of wanted to stay an extra day, as I wanted one more day of like monitoring blood pressure just in case it all of a sudden spiked up again. But they did say, please keep taking it. You have an at-home cuff. Please take it twice a day, morning and evening, kind of at the same time. And just if you notice anything, please call us. So I did, I was like logging it every morning and afternoon, and it was pretty good, 120s. And then there was a day that it hopped up to like 135. I want to say it was 9 days postpartum, and it hopped up to 135-ish. I don't remember the bottom number, but I told you, and you're like, you absolutely should call the midwife. Just call and see, because I was like, it's not in like the 140s. It doesn't feel like it's that elevated. It's probably okay. But 135, you told me to call the midwife, and I did. And I'm, glad I did. I called them and just kind of told them like, hey, I have a little bit of a headache and my blood pressure is 135. And I was like, I do have a blood pressure check at the office tomorrow. So I don't know if I should just wait it out until then, or if there's something I should be doing, that sort of thing. And she was like, 135, a little elevated. Take it again in the afternoon and call me back. You call my cell phone if it's high. I'm working from home. Call my cell phone if it's high, and we'll, go from there. Otherwise, you have an appointment tomorrow. We can just kind of sit on it. And I was like, okay, no problem. I took it again like an hour later, and it had come down a little bit. So we were in like the high 120s. And I was like, okay, I think we're I think it was a fluke.
Right. Yeah.
During this time, I'm starting to notice like I'm like feeling off all day. I had a headache.
Almost like flu-like.
Yes.
Like light flu.
Yes. So like that was the other thing that's kind of amplifying my concerns with the blood pressure. Eventually that evening, I realized I have signs of mastitis, which is basically just a clogged milk duct. And I was like, okay, that's probably the headache. That's probably what all of these flu-like symptoms are. Tomorrow at my appointment, I'm going to like mention it to them, get some antibiotics, and it'll all clear up. So that was my game plan. I was like, blood pressure's fine. I just have mastitis. Well, we get to the appointment and we brought Milo, and we're just sitting in this, they bring us back to this room in this comfy chair, and they're like, okay, we're going to take your blood pressure. I'm just going to have you sit and relax for the next 10 to 15 minutes so we get as accurate a reading as possible. Well, we do all of that, and we're sitting there, and it's the highest reading we've had. I mean, this whole time. It was like 155 over, I don't remember the bottom number again.
Like 98 or something.
It was really high. And she was like, okay, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go talk to the doctor. And I was like, okay, but don't forget about the mastitis. Throughout all of this, I was like continuously bringing up the mastitis because I was like, this is very uncomfortable. Please don't forget about the mastitis. And she comes back like a minute later, and she's like, you need to go to the ER.
She said it. She said, hey, so I talked to the doctor, and you need to head to the emergency room right now. No urgency. No, just no urgency. Calmness in her voice. She said, also, we were like whiplash. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We didn't expect that at all. And she said, yeah. And I said, right now. We need to go right now to the emergency room. Not just like go check in at the hospital. She said, yeah, you need to go to the emergency room right now. I would go straight to the emergency room.
Yeah. And I was surprised. Like, they didn't even offer a recheck. Typically they're like, we're going to
wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Relax. We'll check the other arm. Yeah. Maybe take your sweater off.
It was immediate. Yeah. Well, she did actually check both arms.
Okay.
The first time around. She was like, oh, that's really high. Let's check the other side. The other side was just as high. Like, it didn't really make a difference. But yeah. So it was like whiplash of like, okay, well, shoot, there goes like our whole day. Like, I really thought this was going to be like an all clear. You don't even have to keep checking at home.
Yeah. And you were like, oh, Milo and I can just go to the appointment alone. I was like, nah, it's stupid. I'll go with you. I'm happy to go with you.
Yeah. And it's a good thing that you came with us.
I did. Yeah. So we go to the ER, we check in. The ER was packed.
Yeah. So I thought we were going to be there for hours.
But apparently, yeah. Hey, if you ever need to go to the ER and something's wrong, just tell them I got high blood pressure.
Yeah.
That'll get you in quick.
Yeah. They were like, okay.
We waited maybe like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And they brought us back. They got us into a room. And then once you were escorted up to the maternity floor.
Yeah, because they ended up admitting us again. From the ER, they admitted us to the hospital because they were like, oh, yeah, we definitely need to monitor you overnight. And at first they were like, your baby can't come with you. And I was like, okay, well, I'm breastfeeding him. And they were like, your baby and your husband can't stay. Thankfully, we were on the maternity ward, which is where they placed us overnight. And they were like, no,
they were like,
you can absolutely keep your baby and husband with you.
Baby and husband can stay. And they actually said, if your husband doesn't stay, then the baby can't stay because you are going to be in bed. You're not going to be able to take care of the baby as you normally would. So your husband will have to, you won't be able to get up without assistance.
Yeah.
So I took Milo and headed home, had a few tears in the car. Because they're like setting up padding around her and they're like, yeah, this is for seizure risk. It's like, oh my God. Okay. Wow. This is getting very real, very fast.
That's the thing about preeclampsia is they need to bring your blood pressure down because once you're over the 160s, you're at risk for seizures, especially when you start having the other signs and symptoms like a headache and things like that, which I had. Yeah. And it was persistent and not going away. So they padded up my bed and they were like, yep, so we're going to take your blood pressure. We're just going to, continue monitoring it for, every 15 minutes through the course of the evening. And yeah, so you went home.
Yeah, so I took Milo home. First time driving, just me and him. We had a great time, brought him inside, and then started packing more bags because we're going to stay there overnight again. And this one obviously wasn't as serious, but I had to take care of the dogs. Your mom came over. We told her what's going on. She came over, started taking care of the dogs. And then I headed back, and we just kind of hunkered down at the hospital for the night. And you had
Yes.
to be woken up
Every
every
hour.
hour. Yeah.
Every
And
hour I had to be checked, and they had to do like reflex tests and take my blood pressure and check all of the vitals and all of that. It was a very intense night because I was also on a magnesium drip. And the warnings you get before you take when you're getting hooked up is just a heads up, you're going to feel awful.
yeah, they were like, really, you're going to feel horrible with this.
Yeah. They were like, this is the best thing for you with preeclampsia. You're going to hate it. It's going to be a really rough night. I totally get why I was not allowed to take care of the baby on my own. I was truly delirious. It was like I was in the heaviest fog. And like there were moments where I couldn't tell if I was awake or sleeping. And throughout this whole time, I'm like being very casual with the nurses. And I'm like, oh, I feel fine. I feel great. It's all good. But I'm like out of my mind. Yeah. I don't really have strong memories of like the evening portion of all of it, but it was intense. Luckily, my blood pressure did start coming down overnight. So I never got to that true quote unquote danger zone of being like above 160s, in the 170s, anything like that. So this was all preventative. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, the OB came in and he was talking to us about it, and he was very helpful. And he was like, honestly, your blood pressure is coming down. Everything looks really good. I don't think you need to be on this for a full 24 hours. So we ended up getting taken off like early afternoon, or like maybe around 11 the next day, rather than having to be on it until like 6 or 7 p.m. And then it was like a couple hours of monitoring off the magnesium.
And then that evening we headed home.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. That night though, I got a lot of dad experience because I was up with Milo, quite a bit, and doing the solo parenting thing for at least a 12-hour shift, which was definitely upgraded my skills with him, which was nice.
Yeah. The tough thing is, on top of a newborn already having pretty whack sleep, is people were coming into our room every single hour. So it was bad sleep for us, but it was horrible sleep for him.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next part of life with Milo. So after we bring him home, he's now what? Well, now I know he's a month, but at that time he was what,
like
2 weeks?
Not quite. I think
week?
It was 10 days postpartum that we were back in the hospital. So he was like 10 or 11 days. Yeah. Honestly, I would consider Milo a very easy baby.
He's been eating well. He's been sleeping well. We did our 1 week weight check.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, if he gains 3.5 to 7 ounces, 3.5 ounces is what we're looking at the minimum, and 3.5 to 7 is pretty normal, I would say, is like the range that we're looking at. He gained 9.5 ounces, and they were like, you do not need to schedule any more weight checks. He's golden. Yeah. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, that is someone who's like breastfeeding. That was such a relief because like you really don't know how much they're intaking during like your feeding session. So I was super happy to see that. Yeah, he sleeps well. He eats well. The last like couple days we've had some tougher sleep, but overall,
he had some cradle cap that we got taken care of.
Yes. And then what else? I don't know. He's just an angel.
Yeah, it's a good kid.
Yeah. No complaints.
No. All right. So some people submitted some questions for us, and I didn't show Maddie these because I wanted to just kind of like get her gut reaction. I didn't want her to prep these.
Okay.
So let's go through those.
Okay.
Is there anything you wish you would have done in advance to feel better prepared?
For labor, I think one thing that I don't know if you're talking about labor or parenting, so I'll answer both. But when it comes to labor, I really told myself going into it that like at the end of the day, my care team knows best, and I can't really plan for this. I was like, billions of people have done it before me, and you just get through it. Like I don't have another option, which I don't know if that was the best way to prepare for it, but it did, I think, help with how up in the air things went, because again, I wasn't planning on having any induction until we hit 41 weeks, and I would, schedule it then. So that's how I approached labor, is like, I don't have an option but to go through with it. And, my care team will guide me as best as they can, and I will make my decisions as they come. So I don't know, that method might work for you. It might totally not. But I think just going in with the idea of like, you can't completely plan the perfect birth. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And then just being really open-minded. That would be, my advice there. As far as parenting or like just having a newborn, anything I feel like I could have done better to prepare for, I don't know. Nothing is really sticking out. I think one thing is probably spending more time learning and reading about breastfeeding, because that can be, we were really fortunate that Milo latched right away and we're not really having major issues, but like keeping up supply can be tough, especially with hospital stays. And one thing of preeclampsia is it can impact your milk supply. It can like decrease your milk supply. So just kind of having a better understanding of like, oh, you actually do need to kind of be on a feeding and pumping schedule in order to really like get the most out of that experience. And that's something that I'm kind of navigating right now.
And for me, anything I would have done in advance to feel better prepared, not really. I knew that it would be a pretty intense situation, so I prepped as well as I could for that. I mean, I don't even know if I necessarily prepped. Just having like that mental
Yeah.
helps. But then I think business, like work wise, I think I would have tried to put it in slightly more maintenance mode. So we recently announced my one-on-one coaching program, the Change Project. I had this idea that like, oh, I'll be able to launch it mid-July, right when Milo was born. That was, and then like it's August 14th today when we're recording this, the second part of this. And, we're still trying to plug away at it and get it into the spot where like it's in a really good spot, but we also want it to be the best possible program. And so
Right.
Maddie was helping me out a lot with that. And now it's like we're both just, time is a little bit not the same as it was. And
Right.
so I don't know exactly. I don't know. Part of me just feels like you just get through it. You just get through it. And like
Yeah.
things
If
are
you couldn't
never
tell,
going to be perfect.
yeah, if you can tell, that's really our mantra for a lot of things. Mantra for a lot of things is like, you just do
You
it.
just
Like,
do it. Yeah. You just suck it up and you do it.
yeah, you just, prepare as well as you can.
These
And
are the
then
circumstances, and now this is,
we're,
we have one option, and that's to just move through it.
yeah.
We cannot avoid it. So no, not really for me. Nothing for me that I would have done to feel better prepared, I guess. No, not really. Next question. Do you guys view life a little different now that you're parents?
Not really. I mean,
No, my
I,
answer was literally gonna be not really.
I
Like, and I know
that sounds,
people probably maybe not expect, but maybe I don't. Everybody's going to look at life in different ways, and there will
yeah.
be these, these situations that occur, these moments that happen to them where it will shift their life. It will change their perspective of the world. But I don't think it makes you better or worse based on like what, I think some people would be very, very like, oh, he's so sweet. If I was like, my whole life has changed, everything. I wake up and I'm excited and I'm happy and, but
Yeah.
like, I think we also have to be realistic at times. Like, I, one thing that I did think is that my whole life would change.
Mhm.
I did. I thought my business would cease to grow. I thought that I would have to spend all my time worrying about this child, which I partially do now, but like, it's like more of a, I still, here's the thing, when you turn like 16 years old or 14 years old or 30 years old or 50 years old. It's one of these like age, and it's Friday night, and the next morning, Saturday morning, you're turning a new age. And somebody comes up to you and is like, how do you feel now that you're 30? How do you feel now that you're 14? How do you feel now that you're 52? And it's like
Same as
basically the
yesterday.
same as I did yesterday, because, that's a little bit different because it's like, it's this
because nothing there's
temporal
right.
milestone
Yeah.
rather than like this big shift in your life.
Right.
But what I realized was like, life is still going to go on for me. I'm
Yeah.
still going to have to keep up with my social media demands. I'm still going to have to keep up with my business. I'm still going to have to keep up with taking the dogs outside
Right.
and
And
worrying about my own physical health. It's just now there's also the life of a child that I have to worry about too. So it's just an added,
part of the day.
yeah, it's just another part of my life that I've added in. So I wouldn't say it's like
Now,
when you got pregnant, that was when
yeah.
all of a sudden it was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
But in like a way, not like, I hope that, oh, like you get that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's not like, oh God, oh no, it wasn't
Right.
like
It
that
wasn't
for
like a
me,
negative.
but it was, I think those were the first words out of my mouth.
Something like
Something to
that.
that effect. We have it on video, but yeah, it was something to that effect where it's like, and you know, I took a Polaroid of you with the pregnancy test and I put it on my desk and I just like wrote a note next to it, which was like, every second counts, you know, baby is coming.
Yeah. I think that that is kind of when, you know, you start preparing and like your life changes when the pregnancy happens
Yeah,
because
because you know what's happening. You
yeah.
know what's going to happen. So I wouldn't say it's like all of a sudden I don't know if I've told you this. I did when I held him for the first time. I muttered under my breath, I will move mountains for you. We're not going to let him spill. If you're just on audio, I'm just like holding my eyelids up so that no tears spill because then I'm not crying.
Yeah. When we say that, like, there's more joy for me. You know, I had this little baby and he's so sweet. And I have always wanted to be a mom. So, in that way, yes, things have changed. You know, like I am doing something that I have always wanted to do. And it's something that I've been, you know, for me, preparing for. You know, like once we got married and we moved into our home and, you know, we got the business to where we wanted it,
You were able to leave your job.
I was able to leave my job. You know, my goal was to be a mom. And, you know, I have goals outside of that too. Like, I'm not saying like that's my only purpose in life or anything like that, but it was something that I have wanted so badly for so long.
Yeah. And all I've wanted to do is support you through that. And so it's why I worked so hard in business and pushed so hard every day and every week. And because it's like, I have the capability, I have the skills, I have the knowledge to be able to build a business big enough that I can retire my wife, retire air quotes, and give her this child and give her the life that she's wanted. And so it's like, when I know that I can do that, it's like, why would I not give my best every single fucking moment of every single day? And so once, like, when I say that I said, oh fuck, when she told me that she was pregnant, we were trying. Like,
Yeah.
we knew
Yeah.
this wasn't like an accident. Like, we had the many conversations, you know, and we had many conversations about it. And we finally decided, like, when we have an idea, we go back and forth on it. Like, we weigh out both sides, like the pros, the cons. Is this the right time? We look at it from every single angle. And this is why it's been so helpful to have her in the business. It wasn't just like I want to retire my wife so that she can just lay on the couch. Like, that wasn't it. I wanted to retire my wife because like basically buy her out of her corporate job, because I knew that she could bring more value to my business than the money she was making at her corporate job. So it wasn't like this. It was strictly a financial decision. It was strictly a business decision. Yeah. Anyway, we got a little carried away on that. Anything else that you want to add to that one?
No, I don't think so.
All right, we got a few more,
Okay.
like 5 more. Only wanted to say that I'm thrilled. I didn't know I'd love birth stories so much, but I do. Congratulations again, you guys.
That's
very
sweet.
sweet.
Hopefully this wasn't too traumatizing of a birth story to hear.
Yeah. Were you prepared for the black tar baby shit? LOL.
So like yes and no, because I knew it happened.
They tell you about it.
Yeah. And I have just like heard it
way stickier than
previously.
I anticipated.
Yes, that was the big thing, is that it's just a lot sticky. Like you're like scrubbing his legs.
Yes, you're like trying to like pinch it off.
Yeah.
Like way stickier than I anticipated.
Yeah. But I didn't know that was coming.
What's been your favorite part of being parents so far?
Oh, there's so many moments.
I'll go first because mine's shorter.
Okay.
It's just seeing you as mom. Just seeing how happy you are. You know, I'm not going to lie. Like, I've never been the biggest I'm going to say like fan of babies, but that makes me sound like a baby hater. But like, I just don't know how to interact with babies. Like, I grew up with nieces and nephews. I don't know how to interact with babies as much as I do with young kids.
Mhm.
And I love being around young kids. Like, I think they are so fun, just like playing with them, making up worlds with them, making up stories with them, doing just silly stuff with them. I think that is very, very fun to me. When I was going to college, my first year I went away and stayed at college, and then I was in college for 5 years. The subsequent 4 years I stayed at home, lived at home, and 2 times a week my mom would babysit my niece. And so I got to hang out with my niece a lot, and that was just like so fun. Like, she was there as a baby, but then she was also there as a toddler, and so like I have these memories of us like playing on the trampoline, or just like, I don't know, just like doing random stuff. And so kind of like seeing her grow up a little bit, that was so fun for me. And so, and you know, I've coached U8 soccer in the past, and so like I just enjoy being around kids. Like, they're just so fun. And so that is the stage that I'm most excited for, is when he can start like sort of interacting with me and the world, and like just showing him different stuff. But as far as like what's been your favorite part so far, like, one, announcing him, you know, was insane, and like holding him for the first time was genuinely insane. And I'm not like a person who loves holding babies, like outside of my own. Like,
Sure.
I do like holding him, but yeah, my favorite part I would say is just like seeing you as a mom.
That's really sweet. And you do interact with him and play with him, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you're really good at it.
Thanks.
It's really sweet. One thing that I really cherish, and a lot of people I think hate this part. We have been blessed with a pretty good sleeper, all things considered. So we typically only have 2, maybe 3 wake ups in the middle of the night. But I love them. You know, sometimes, yes, it sucks because I am tired and it's exhausting and all of that. And waking up to, a crying baby isn't a peaceful way to start, a wake window or whatever. But the moments where he is just like in the middle of the night and it's just the 2 of us, and we're in a dark room and I'm just talking to him while we, relax or feed, those moments I'm going to cherish a lot because they're limited. They're only this small for so long. So I do actually really like that. Watching him interact with the dogs is funny.
Very cute.
We're kind of at the point where Milo is more alert and eyes opened, and he's starting to kind of track movement with his eyes. So it's really fun to just see him, if we're on the couch and the dogs are nearby, or if he's in his bouncer and the dogs kind of come up to, sniff him and check him out. Watching them interact is really fun. And yeah, those are some of my favorite moments. Bath time.
Bath time is fun.
Bath time is fun.
It's cute. The first one, he hated it. Second one, he didn't hate it as much.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to warm that up.
Yeah.
Not a question, but cherish this first year. It goes by so quick with new things happening almost daily. Yeah, I agree. We're taking a ton of photos and videos.
A ridiculous amount.
I was joking that I'm going to have to buy a second phone just for all the photos and videos.
Yeah, I'll need a hard drive or something.
Right. Okay. This question actually had quite a few questions, so let's just answer them one at a time. How has it been adjusting to having to care for a whole other human, a baby that can't care for itself?
It's a lot of work. Obviously, one thing that it's made me is like so much better at time management.
Yeah, more efficient.
We are so much more efficient.
It's like if we have, as soon as he's down for a nap, it's like, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah, you got to work. You have to take care of the house. You have to check on the dogs. So it's like there's never a down moment until like the evening, the very late evening when he's down for.
Even then, potentially.
Right. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as like taking care of another thing, I'm not equating having a baby to having a dog, but like if you've done the puppy stage,
the puppy stage is hard.
You're kind of, you know what that's like. Obviously, babies cry a little bit more than puppies do, and the feeding is a little bit more demanding.
Diapers are I'm not even gonna say diapers are probably easier than like picking up diarrhea off of a carpet.
Yes, yes, I will change the baby's diaper any day versus some of our dogs during sick season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I genuinely don't think it's been that challenging so far. I think I shouldn't say that. It is challenging. There's obviously a lot of, tough things to kind of figure out.
I would say it's challenging.
But I think it's manageable.
It's manageable. Yeah.
That's
I wouldn't say
it's
challenging because of Milo. I would say it's challenging because of life was already challenging
Yeah.
in terms of like our aspirations and our
Yeah.
goals. I will actually use that. Other people have it worse. I don't like saying that, as like what,
Sure.
recalling from earlier in the episode, but like we are very lucky to be in the position that we are in. We have work, and I don't want to diminish the hard work that we have put in with just saying like, oh, we got lucky.
Sure.
There's a mix of both, sometimes you do make your own luck, but with our aspirations of what we want our future to look like that already is a big challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
that already means that we have to sacrifice time with friends and time with doing hobbies and time like just for relaxation time. Like we have to make those sacrifices now because we know what we want down the road. And so that has been challenging, but
Yeah.
it was challenging before. And so adding Milo, it's just a different
Yeah.
type of challenge now.
Again, we really do have a pretty easy baby.
Yep.
So that makes it more manageable for us.
Kind of a good lead into the next question. How have you guys adjusted to balancing your work demands with your parenting demands / expectations?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first 2 weeks, it was like I was attached to the baby, essentially.
Yeah, and the next question before we like the next question is how has this been for mom versus dad? And so I think these kind of go hand in hand. So I just want to throw that in there as well because I think we're going to cover both. So Maddie has been taking on like the more traditional like motherly approach where she's spending a lot of time with Milo. And it's not to say that like I'm completely separated. Like I just go into the office and I'm see you later. I'll see you at 5 p.m.
That doesn't happen.
Like that's not how that works. We live in the same house. I work from home. However, both of us had this understanding that she was going to be pulling back from work significantly. That has to happen when you only have so much to give, so much time, so much mental energy, so much, anything. You have to pull back somewhere if you're already at capacity. And we were both already at capacity. And now, adding Milo into the mix, like, yes, she's had to pull back from work to be able to give more of herself to Milo, which is a trade that both of us would that is a trade we would make 100 times out of 100. Like that's a no-brainer, obviously. That said, because of that, like my work has become even more demanding than it normally is. And so like, yeah, my days are a little bit hard. I don't want to say like they're easier or harder than hers because she just has a different task. So trying to equate this doesn't really make any logical sense. And it would almost pit each other against each other. And that's like, we're a team. We're team E. That's a joke in our family because our last name is Teamy. If you didn't know, that's how you pronounce it. So we often say like we're Team E.
And like we try to make sacrifices or like plans that kind of help us both manage that the best that we can. Like I try to make sure that because you are taking the brunt of the work, like our day-to-day job work, I want to make sure that you are able to like go golfing and get time out of the house because I think that you very much need that downtime. And none of this is to say that you are not hands-on with Milo because you help out a lot. And
no, but
also,
you handle the most of Milo and I handle the most of work. That's
just how it has worked out.
If I had boobs that produce milk, like I would be able to be a little bit more helpful. But
it's a little tougher when it's breastfeeding. But
But like, I mean, we just try to support each other in the best ways that we possibly can. Like we've never been like, I think a lot of couples start to resent each other when, I don't know, when like obstacles come up, like they start, and I don't, we've both been stressed, but at no point has it been like I hate you or anything like that. That's not ever on the radar, like ever on the topic of conversation. And I think like, obviously our demographics are skewed quite a bit older, but if there are any younger listeners like that you are considering dating somebody or you're considering finding a life partner, you need to find somebody that's going to be on your team and not like we were on the same team from day one. Oh, Milo's crying. So let's start wrapping this up because I don't want to put this in part 3.
No, he'll self-soothe for a bit.
Anything you want to add there? Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. Parenthood has been great for us. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We're really excited to see him keep exploring the world. We are very lucky that he's healthy, and just like that is one thing I'm so grateful for. I try to like maybe not always announce it or like write it down or anything like that, but I do have these like internal, like, I'm very grateful that my wife and son are healthy, that my dogs are healthy, that, that the business is going very well, that we do have the time and the luxury to be able to grow the business, not just put it in maintenance mode. So yeah, just feeling very grateful for everything that we've got going on. And it does feel very surreal because I didn't think I had a lot of anxiety, still do, but definitely growing up. And I just didn't think I'd be here.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think, I don't know, I didn't think I'd make it this far, I guess. So for anybody else, cheesy as it is, like, you can make it too. You just got to have that self-belief and self-confidence. Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star. Please give us a 5-star rating. Screenshot shared on your Instagram story. Tag us at AlexTeamFitness, at Meals with Maddie. Sort of a dead account, but
yeah, we're working on it.
I'm teasing her about that. Also not really. But the A team is in its intro week, so now would be the best time to join. However, you can join at any time you want. There's a 7-day free trial along with it, and then it's only less than $1 a day. So what, $27 a month. And Forward Forever, the next cycle registration opens September 8th. So we would love to see you there. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.